Hello, everyone, and welcome to the TTV Modcast, episode 19.
Woo! Yeah!
Here we are.
Energy.
Flowing through my body.
Speaking of whatever you were just talking about, how about our names?
I'm Waj.
I'm Chronicler.
I'm Slime.
I'm John Smith.
I'm Lego Master.
And I'm Indy.
It just occurred to me that this is episode 19, and our next episode is the QANDA. Rather than lay down all the rules, I'll just let Future Watch do that and edit him in. So, Future Watch, take it away. Well, it's that time of time again. Our second Q&A episode is nearly upon us. But this time round, the way you ask a question will be different. We won't be using the TTV Modcast topic to receive questions, since we don't want that to become an AMA. So instead, you can use the most advanced communication site ever, Bird Chatter, also known as Twitter. Simply go to Bird Chatter and chitter your question with the hashtag TTV ripoff. You can also use the comment section of this episode to ask a question as well. You can ask one question per platform, for a total of 2 questions, and we won't be accepting any questions along the lines of, oh, who are your favorite boards members? Or just the way we feel towards specific people on the boards in general. We won't allow those. All questions must abide by the board's rules. So, happy QANDA!
Thank you, Future Watch, for that lovely explanation.
Yes, Future Watch.
Yes, all hail Future
we all
Watch.
love you and praise you. All hail Future Watch.
So here we are, once again, with our pentalogy now. It keeps growing.
Let's make it a 9-part series, woo!
So this is part 4, I suppose, or part 3 originally, where we're talking about the Ignition Trilogy, which is Bionicle Gen 1's 06 to 08. And so we're going to talk about that here, and the last episode will be at some point, probably episode 23, I'm not sure, and that'll be on the last years of Bionicle Gen 1.
Well, Watch, I mean, with recent events, we might actually have an additional episode to cover the 2 years of Bionicle Gen 2.
That announcement, that was announced last week, not today,
Not
Friday, the 29th of July, 2016.
But yeah, Gen 6. Interesting twist for Bionicle, for sure. We can talk about the Piraka first, I guess. The Piraka were certainly a fun and interesting new twist, in my opinion. I think they were the most posable sets we had. They added a lot of kind of the norms. I mean, the Piraka build up until the end of Bionicle was the standard. I guess if you want to call it Piraka, Inika build, whatever.
The builds for 2006 were incredibly influential. With the Metro, we got neck articulation standardized for Toa, but with 2006, just the entire build was carried over. Even up till 2009, we still had the Inika build with the Glutorian.
You could also argue that the Piraka started that standard for every set having a launcher. I don't know if the hookah spinners really count, since they weren't really a gun or anything.
You're right, actually. 2006 was when LEGO started saying, like, hey, let's put these big, giant, extremely unwieldy pieces on all of the figures for all the sets for all the waves. That's totally a good idea.
Can I say that the only good launcher was the Zammer launcher? That was awesome.
The Piraka Zammer launcher, it had no kind of way of holding in the Zammer spheres.
It's true.
But it
That was
still
my big
looked the best.
One thing I want to say about the Piraka is that they had a lot of really interesting pieces, and for me right now, I'm building a bunch of different Metro build mocks, and they have a lot of the Vaki leg pieces and I guess the Piraka leg pieces in interesting colors. They have the sand blue and the sand green, a lot of pieces that we never got again in those colors. I think that was really cool.
Yeah, that is really interesting how they utilize different color schemes in new and unique ways.
Like the one shade of green that Zakan used. I don't think that was ever used anywhere else.
Well, it was used on like Swampfire and Ben 10 later on, but in
Yeah.
terms of actual mainstream kind of Bionicle sets, sand green is a very rare color.
I don't think the gray on Thok was ever used again.
Oh, don't get me started on the
Oh,
white
that
color
is
that
true.
Thok has.
Thok's off-white color that could have been white but
God.
wasn't
It's
white.
like pearly white.
It doesn't fit anything else, and it's so
No.
infuriating. Because it clashes with regular white. There's not enough of it to really like use as kind of an accent or a contrast color in other kind of mocks. Even like the actual Thok minifigure has the off-white color. Like in the system sets, the Thok minifigure has an off-white color scheme, and I'm just like, LEGO, why? Why do that? Because you never use it again.
Are you saying the pieces like that Metro arm that all the Piraka have? That white is different from Nuju's white.
Yep.
Ugh, that's gross.
I don't really
like that.
understand why they did it too. Like, oh no, actually I do, because of the Piraka's skull. The regular white might not have worked well with the Piraka's skull. It just occurred to me now, and that's why they did it.
Can I address the elephant in the room?
Yeah.
The Piraka being complete clone sets.
The thing is, I like them because they have these nice little variations. Like, I think they have very expressive faces, and I've loved that. Half of them had different feet, which was kind of a thing, and they did have different weapons. Yes, they were clone sets, but I think they worked well as that. Like, I think I liked that they were all kind of similar.
I tend to agree with that. The color schemes are so different. The pieces that are different are distinct enough so you can say, if you took two Piraka, you would instantly be able to tell them apart, even if they were the same color.
The heads, I think, are really what do it. The heads are so different, and like people always harp on the spines, but how could they have done the spines differently?
I like the spines. They're a really unique thing. It's a bold move to, because think of all the bold moves they made between 2005 and 2006. I mean, the skull thing, the light up eyes, the spine, like all of that. Like, they just kind of threw it all on there.
One thing though, what do you guys think of the Piraka's weapons? Because they seem really cool, but is it just me or they're really hard to reuse on mocks?
It depends. I've seen a few of them used decently. I'd say that probably Hakan and Zaktans are the easiest to reuse.
Yeah.
Maybe Vazox as well.
Radak and Avak, those two infuriate me because they're just really weird pieces. That's ultimately what G1 of Bionicle was. You always had some parts that just were not reusable, that were so specific.
Speaking of which, how about those Inika heads that are never used for anything ever?
I wish I could find a use for them in my mocks, but I just can't.
It's the blended color. It's the kind of lime greenish color or the glow in the dark, whatever it was, combined with the white. If they were just white or if they were just green, we could use them for stuff. But that color combination, along with the really weird texture that it had, is just ugh. How about the masks themselves?
I like the masks, but
I like the Inika a lot. They did have different masks for sure, and I don't like that standard mask, but I think it was a different thing, and it matches well with the Piraka. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Kind of like a almost feral look to them, or a very, like, even the Toa looked kind of evil-ish, I feel, in 2006. I don't know if you guys ever get that impression, but especially with, like, the dark, rainy background, and a lot of them have kind of their teeth showing. They don't look as mechanical and as kind of robotic as the original Toa did, but they don't look like as heroic, I feel, as some of the other masks do.
The masks obviously are meant to look organic, and for that they look great, but I do feel that they kind of contrast weirdly with the clearly mechanical aspects of the rest of the build.
That's true. The Inika build looks very mechanical.
Which works fine with later years a little bit. It's like you look at the Mahri, or you look at the Toa Phantoka and Mistika and all that. It kind of works a little bit better, but here it kind of just looks a little odd. I've seen people take the Inika masks and use them in mocks that have very organic feels, and they feel perfectly fine. The reason why they look so odd is that they're kind of out of place in a way.
Yeah, definitely.
And Titans were great. Some of my favorite Bionicle Titans. My favorite one has to be Vizon Finrak. I just really love that set.
I also really enjoy the other two as well. Axon is a very cool character. I mean, it's a giant buff guy with a giant axe. What more can you want from that? That's awesome. And then Brutaka is just, I don't own him personally, but he has a fantastic build. And I don't think we ever got a character with that much gold in him before.
I will say about Brutaka, having owned 3 of his masks. No, I think only 2. It's giant.
Oh yeah.
It is nigh impossible to use on any scale that isn't Brutaka's scale. Just because you stick that on like a normal Toa-sized figure and it looks like they have a giant head.
Maybe it's just how wide the Olmec is. I don't know. Like, it's very, very wide. It looks like it has giant cheeks or something.
Yeah, that's the main issue. It's very wide and very long. Just in comparison to other masks, it's just huge.
Yeah.
Axon's is also a little bit, but it's not as bad because Axon is a smaller build. Also, just aesthetically, I like how their 2 masks work very well with their builds. Axon's mask with the Nuva armor. Brutaka's mask works very well with the Borak eyes and the Piraka feet.
And that spiky aesthetic.
Yeah, the spiky, jagged aesthetic that he's got going.
Gold and silver are both really overused in construction, but I would say that Brutaka and Axon use them very well. because they complement the other main colors. Silver looks really good with dark red, and gold looks really good with dark blue.
Those are color combinations that we don't see too much of down the line.
I just realized Axon and Brutaka are kind of mirrors of each other in terms of the colors, like dark red, dark blue, silver, gold. Even their builds, like tall and then short, really reinforces the kind of like, would you call them rivals?
Yeah,
The
I
kind
would.
of rival thing that they have going on. It's a really neat piece of set design.
I gotta say, for the 2006 story, I think the Ignition Trilogy was kind of my golden years for Bionicle. Like, I was definitely the right age for it, if it makes any sense. And I remember before 2006, people would always make mocks of the various Matoran that were important, the 01 to 03 sagas, like, Huki, Jala, etc. They'd always make Toa Jala mocks. And it was kind of like a crazy, surreal thing when we finally got Toa that we had already seen as previous characters. And it was almost like a really smooth development. And that was a really, really cool thing to see. Like, oh wow, we've seen all these characters before in different settings, all going out. And I think that was one of the kind of best things, I think personally, to send off with 2006.
Voya Nui seemed like a very big change in kind of aesthetic because it was basically like a wasteland.
I wouldn't really call it a wasteland. There was definitely like life there. It was just very inhospitable to Matoran.
Yeah.
And it's not too different from Motunui. It's a lot harsher in a lot of ways, I'd say. But it still has the kind of that island aesthetic.
Maybe it's more the promotional material. Like Metru Nui and Mata Nui, in the promotional material, we got to see all the different environments, all the different Metrus or Koros or Wahis or whatever. Whereas with Voya Nui, we didn't really see the environments that the Toa and the Piraka were really supposed to be in and were supposed to be, fighting in and living in almost. It was just generic backgrounds I found.
Lego Master, don't you just love the part of the story where the Toa crash in through those iron gates into that one place that's totally specified? It's not edgy or anything.
You can feel the edge.
Being someone who owns almost all the Ignition Trilogy comics, they're pretty edgy.
Speaking of edginess, how about that 2007?
Let's start with the sets for 2007 first. What did you guys think?
The Barraki, I feel like, were very unique. All had very different builds, not all of which were the most amazing thing, but like they all were very unique in their own ways and had a lot of character to them.
There were definitely really interesting builds, and actually, they really didn't carry over the Piraka build. That was more the Mahri that did that. That was really interesting, that the Barraki were just really weird. Their builds were quite strange.
Their main flaw was the squid launcher.
Oh, yes. For me, that never worked. Such a strange thing, the squid launcher, like a rubbery piece that you'd use like as a slingshot, I guess.
The funny thing about squid launchers is that I really hated them, but my brother, Kylerak, he was able to use them like expertly. But the thing is, I was like, well, I'm glad once all these squids break, I'm glad we don't have to use this dumb thing anymore. You know what my mom brings me? She's like, here, guys, I got you an additional thing once you got this Lego set of yours. And she gives me the flippin' pack of squids. And I was like, why do we have this? This is why. So now I have a bunch of blue and yellow squids in my Bionicle collection that occasionally pop up. I'm like, why does this happen?
I mean, they're cool pieces, I find. They work in the story, and they're like cool-looking pieces, but launcher-wise, they're not the greatest.
I want to offer a distinct opinion about the Barraki. They're actually some of my least favorite canister sets. I appreciate that they were trying to do unique builds, but almost all of them look really crappy and unfinished to me.
They have like spindly torsos in lots of cases.
I think Elec is one of the worst offenders. Like his torso is literally a beam. His torso is literally a beam.
Oh yeah, you're right. I never noticed that before. I guess the promotional images have a way of making them look good.
I don't have as much of an issue with that, just because I feel like the Barraki were meant to look like emaciated in some way.
They don't really look good still. Like a story reason doesn't necessarily, just because you make a story reason for it doesn't mean the set isn't still fairly bad. Shall we move on to the Mahri? Get that over with?
Yeah, the Mahri had the Inika build in kind of full force. Although they did have unique elements to them. Like Jaller had like a companion crab, and that was really neat.
I honestly think the Mahri were the best Toa team, in my opinion. Like, I don't know what it was. I think it was really cool to have Kongu was like the heavy person with the two guns, and it seemed like they had different weapon classes, if it makes any sense, which was really cool. Say what you will about Huki Mahri, I guess, but like, I still like the set a bit because it's very unique.
I always thought his mask was weird.
He has maces on his knees No,
That's
not even on his
cool.
knees, on his thighs.
That's
It's
cool.
spiky
Thigh
armor.
knees are not cool. He
Well,
also has no hand.
That's not a
Well,
big
Yeah.
I
deal.
mean, having a head made out of pure slime isn't cool either. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, exactly.
All I know is that I owned Huki and that I was very happy with Huki as and small child, but looking back, it's just
I disagree, but I can see where you're coming from.
I think some of the best Mari have to either be Holly, Jala, or yeah, those two. I think those two are the best in my opinion.
I really like how they made Holly amazing with her wings. Since the story was set all under water, it just makes sense that the water Toa would be powered up immensely.
See, like, I don't know about you guys, but like, I think one of the reasons I like the Mari so much was that Mari movie, which as a kid I probably watched 4 billion times. It was,
Oh, the Mari movie
Oh.
was amazing.
I would always like take off all the gear from my Toa Mari and then like you know what I mean, like kind of like put it back on.
That suit up sequence was sweet.
That desperately made me want a 2007 movie, especially. I think that would have been such a cool movie.
Oh yeah, that was one of the things that was kind of disappointing about the Ignition Trilogy, was that we didn't really get a full feature movie.
Okay, my favorite thing about the Ignition Trilogy was that we didn't get a movie, because all
Really?
the movies have not.
all the movies are trash.
Admittedly, that is kind of true. And the thing about it is that we actually instead did get story commercials. Like, you could follow the story from these commercials that we got. They're trying to find the Mask of Life, the Ignika. There was an ad where the Ignika was falling into the sea, and one of the Matoran Dekar finds it and puts it on this, like, statue.
Creeping in my soul.
Shadow's Lost. Yeah.
I really liked Creeping in the Deep. Like the Cryo Shell songs for 2007, 2008 were really good.
I liked it too. It's very nostalgic for me. I thought it was really cool. Other than, in my opinion, Godunka, I think we had some of the best Titans ever.
What's wrong with Godunka? I mean, other than the giant open mouth.
Godunka's creative, but you cannot beat Hydraxon or Malxios. Like, those are awesome sets.
Hydraxon is amazing. I'm trying to rebuild him right now, and it's just like he has such a presence to him.
He's not only just a giant dude. He has like 3 knives on his hand. He's got like knives on his back. It's like the dude's loaded. It's awesome.
His story kind of persona is really cool, and it works really well with the set. You know, this lone wolf jailer who's just decked out in
Sure,
weapons.
yeah.
He's
I love
really
him.
great. And like, I never really got Magzilos, but he was kind of a big deal, right?
Kind of, like Makuta was inhabiting his body, so slightly important.
Yeah.
But I mean, the cool thing with Magzilos is that, first of all, he had a lot of cool gunmetal parts, but also he had a lot of articulation.
You had waist articulation.
He was huge too. Like, Hydroxon was huge, but Malxios was gigantic. Like, oh my god. I love that set. I mean, Spinax was alright, but it was just kind of a cool add-on.
How about Karzani?
I want to get Karzani. Does anyone recommend that set? I've been kind of curious about getting it.
But I mean, it's got the only recolored Toa Metru mask, the
Yeah.
Metru Blue Ruru,
Yeah.
which, you know, I really like Rurus.
It's got a bunch of other interesting recolors, and just overall the set looks not really a whole lot like the 2006 Karzani, but it's a big set.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to say about the story is that compared to 2006, like I read pretty much all of the Ignition books in one sitting, and I did not like 2007's story. The overall story that we got, like, you know, through the mini movie and all that, they're racing to get the Mask of Life, that I liked. But how it actually played out, I just feel like there was no drama to it. Like, it was like, oh, the world is ending. Basically, the world is ending, or is threatening to end. But I don't know, maybe it was the underwater environment. I feel like fighting underwater didn't really work for me. Because when you try to picture it in your mind playing out, like, you know, theoretically everybody would be slower because they're humanoids fighting underwater. And I don't know, it didn't really work for me. But that's probably more of a personal preference than anything. What did you guys think of the overall 2007 story and where it went and kind of the feeling of it?
Obviously, you have the only time a major character has died, Motoro, may he rip and rip.
I remember that. Like, I remember being however old I was, 9, and like reading that comic, and like that was heartbreaking. That was a good plot point, you know?
It built him up a lot. Do you think that they had it planned since early 2006? Because Motoro was kind of like the main character.
Greg, I'm pretty sure, confirmed that it intended Matoran to die all along. And that's why there's the scene in the second Ignition book. They have to go through the tunnel that absorbs all light. Goro feels a presence. So
Oh, yeah,
turns
that.
out to be the Mask of Light testing him. At least
Really?
from that point, Greg had been planning to kill off Matoran.
It worked, especially as a transition into the next year, 2008. Like, I feel like the entire trilogy really felt more concise and more tied together than previous years.
I think Cardanui was a good setting as well.
Oh, I
Are we gonna-
loved Cardanui.
I'm still a bit fuzzy on how geographically it works, where there was a hole in the ocean flooding into Cardanui and the whole thing didn't get filled up. I don't know, but it was an interesting kind of setting to have a battle in.
To go back to what I was saying for 2007 I feel didn't really work for me because it was a battle underwater, and I don't know, I just didn't really like that. But then 2008, it was a battle in the sky, and I feel that really worked. What did you guys think of the Phantoka overall?
They weren't the best design sets, but I think it was really cool that each of them had their own way of flight. Like Kopaka had kind of his wing going on, Liwo had the jetpack thing, and Pawatu had the helicopter thing, which I think that was kind of a unique way of dealing with that. The Phantoka Makuta were also really cool. Chirox was super interesting because he had those like folded up arms, which was really neat. Vampire had like the cool bat leg thing, and then Antros was kind of the most normal out of them, but he had the wings, which was really cool.
Yeah, and Antros just looked mean. Like, that figure itself is a very menacing looking figure, I find. They really did a good job of making these Makuta look like real villains. The Av Matoran get a lot of flack for just how basic they are, but I feel like
Praise Solak! The Av Matoran, on one hand, yeah, they're like the most simplistic things ever. On the other hand, they're not, I don't know, I wouldn't call them complete trash.
their Kanohi I find are really, really nice.
I think they look fantastic with their Makuta and Toa. I think they look really good with them. That's my opinion. But
The combi model gimmick, for me, I really, really like. But again, this is probably nostalgia talking because 2008 is by far like the most nostalgic year for me.
How about Mutron and Vikan?
Kind of felt like a rehash of Chirox. It was the same masks. It worked all right, but the claws were kind of big in my opinion. The other Titans I found were good though. Takanuma was a little bit too big.
I love that figure.
Yeah.
How about Toa Ignika?
He was really nice. He was more of like a vehicle set, just like Lesovic. It was like a kind of a canister-sized Toa with a vehicle.
Speaking of vehicles, 2008 was when vehicles really became a thing. They were awesome. Just all of the various vehicles like the Axelara and Jetrax.
I'm sad because I never got any of the vehicle sets.
I got
me neither.
the best one, but got the Rocco.
The Rocka, aka the flying brick.
Yeah, the flying brick.
I don't know, it has its own charm to it.
But the Exalara is so nice. I think the Exalara is kind of like the poster boy of all the vehicles I found.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I really want to get that set.
They had some good recolors too, I think. The Rocco
They
had
did.
the black Borak shield
Silver.
pieces in silver. And even like the new forms of the Toa, I personally liked them. I like those kind of new fins that they put on the masks.
They really did give the sense that they were fighting in the air, and I guess they were just better equipped for aviation.
Well, it's the adapted armor, right? The story in 2008, they had the adaptive armor.
Adaptive.
Which
Right.
they really should have done from the beginning, I feel, because that's a really easy way of explaining away all the different Toa transformations that are necessary for like a new wave of sets each year. Sometimes they didn't really explain the differences really well. Like in 2006, I remember in the books, Greg poked fun kind of at the fact that, oh, their masks were so weird and different now, and they had like glowing heads. 2008, it worked really well with the different Toa permutations.
What do you guys think of the Mistika? Or as some people like to call them, the Mistaka?
I think the Makuta are really, really good sets. Biddle's awesome, in my opinion. I love Biddle. I love Gorest a lot. I like the Makuta a lot, personally. The Toa, I don't know.
The lack of offensive weapons is what bugged me with the Mistika. Well, not offensive. The lack of offensive weapons that weren't launchers is what I mean.
Yeah.
Similar to Kongu Mahri, like they don't have any kind of blades or any kind of melee weapon, and so that's what really
Who
annoyed
does?
me. Well, he has like a
Yeah,
spinning
has
shield,
this-
and then when you look at Onu and Gali, they
Yeah.
don't really have anything. When you're a kid, you want to like make your figures fight together and have like melee battles, but you can't really do that with the Mistika Toa.
2006 to 8, the sets that we got were really good, especially with the Inika, and just that build I found was really cool. I think the fact that there were light up weapons, I just remember those being really fun to play with. And the story was interesting. I remember being really intrigued with all of the comics that they'd release on Bionicle.com. They're just really solid sets, especially with the Titans that we got.
2006, 2008, despite all of the flaws that we've been kind of outlining here in this podcast and that the community has just beaten to death, I think that for me that was my personal golden age of Bionicle, and it probably has a lot to do with nostalgia, but I feel they were able to tell a actual complex, even though it sometimes got too complex, but just a good solid story with good interesting characters. For me overall, 2006, 2008 had kind of a certain magic to it or a certain feel to it that for me, that was Bionicle. That was what Bionicle was. And I don't think it was really able to be recaptured since in G2 or any of that, but I'm going to definitely hold fond memories of 2006 to 2008 in my heart, and I'll continue to be revamping sets from those years. That's fun.
Bionicle's story developed at a perfect rate to the way I was developing growing up, where I was a young kid when 2001, 2003, all that was happening. And for me, that was kind of just like a fun island full of a bunch of Bionicles and a bunch of like villages, and that was kind of fun. And then it gets into, you know, when you become 10, 11, 12, and you think you're the edgiest guy on the planet. And the 2006, 2008 story definitely was more complex. I mean, there was some great stuff in there. Like, I forget the book name, but the one where it talks about the perspective of the Piraka over the years and, you know, their Dark Hunter and all that. That was an awesome story.
That.
You're no longer telling a traditional story of 6 good guys fighting a bunch of bad guys. There were different perspectives, and you got to see the perspective of the bad guys, and there was a lot more going on than that. And I think that they really did build upon the story and create a huge and great foundation that I agree was what Bionicle was.
The Ignition Trilogy is really when the story started to pick up. You've got some of that in 04, 05, but you start to have additional story material that's available not through books. Just the amount of information begins to grow. And what you were saying before, Indy, about how Bionicle was kind of like growing up with you. And it gets a lot of flack for that because, you know, if you weren't growing up with Bionicle during that time, then it just didn't work. But for those that it did work for, it worked very well. And having been in that generation, growing up, you know, during that time, getting really into the story, during the Ignition Trilogy, it really has a special place for me.
When 2006 came along, it was finally taking place chronologically after Mask of Light. I was really excited, and I ended up really enjoying it because of that, and we got to see the Toa Nuva again after 2 years of nothing. I ended up really enjoying 2006, 2007, and 2008 felt like a great climax to everything that Bionicle had been building towards ever since 2001.
Yeah, so that was the modcast. Look forward to the second QANDA that we're going to do next episode. And stay tuned for the last episode of the pentalogy. So, goodbye, everyone.
Bye, and don't question my chronicler wasn't in the latter half of this episode.
We got abducted by aliens.